Good afternoon. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Central, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundance Television, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcaster, thenewscasters.com. You can also send an email if you have any questions or anything you would like me to do a little research for you. I'll be glad to do that. Send an email to donna@donnasedge.com. Okay, so this is one that was brought to me by Patty, and it's nonverbal communication and body language. What's it all about? Okay, so you remember when you were a kid growing up, and sometimes your parents didn't have to say a word. It was just the expression on their face. Or like you guys like to say, we do, the women, you say that we just said, she doesn't have to say a word. I know exactly what she's saying right now without saying a word. So that's called nonverbal communication and body language when we cross our arms as well. Now, let me say this, though. Sometimes, because I'm a very cold-natured person, I may be like this with my arms. It's probably simply because I'm cold, and that would be the only reason. So don't take this too much to heart. I mean, it could be, a little cold outside. But as we just mentioned, according to this article, this is on helpguide.org, your facial expression, your gestures, your posture, and even the tone of voice are powerful communication tools. And here's how to read and use body language to build better relationships at home and at work. Now, again, not everything is the way it looks. So sometimes we just simply read somebody the wrong way. So let's see what body language is. Now, this is an article written by Jean Siegel, she's PhD, and also Melinda Smith, MA, Lawrence Robertson, and Greg Boise. All right, so what is body language? Okay, so while the key to success in both personal and professional relationships lies in your ability to communicate well, it's not the words that you use, but your nonverbal cues or body language that speaks the loudest. Absolutely. Anybody ever just seared into your eyes? Now, sometimes you can take that the wrong way. Sometimes people can be hard of hearing, maybe, and it looks as if they have this passionate, you don't know what they're thinking. It could be they're looking at your eyes and they're reading your lips to listen. So again, don't take so much to heart about this. Body language is the use of physical behavior, expressions, and mannerisms to communicate nonverbally, often done instinctively rather than consciously. Okay? Now, whether you're aware of it or not, when you interact with others, you're continuously giving and receiving wordless signals. So all of your nonverbal behaviors, the gestures you make, your posture, the tone of your voice, even the eye contact you make can send strong messages. They can also put people at ease. They can build trust and draw others toward you, or they can offend, confuse, and undermine what you're trying to convey. So these messages don't stop when you stop speaking either. So even when you're silent, you're still communicating non-verbally. Okay, for some instances, what comes out of your mouth and what you communicate through your body language could be two totally different things. We see that out of some of our politicians who are running for office. They say one thing, but then you look at their eyes, and their eyes just might be saying another thing. Oh, so your listener is more likely to feel that you're being dishonest if they don't trust what's coming out of your eyes, or if you're talking to them and you're not looking at them. All right, and I'll tell you something I've noticed people do sometimes. I don't know if they get nervous about speaking or whatever, but they're not looking you in the eyes. They're kind of looking up. Have you ever seen people do that? I think it's a nervousness thing. I don't think it's a mistrust thing. If you say yes while you're shaking your head, no. If I go, yes, that's okay. First of all, when shaking my head is going to be the one that's speaking the truth. That really is. So when faced with such mixed signals, the listener has to choose whether to believe your verbal or your nonverbal language. Okay, so since body language is a natural unconscious language that broadcasts your true feelings and intentions, they'll likely choose the nonverbal message. Okay, so, however, by improving how you understand and use nonverbal communication, you can express what you really mean, connect better with others, and build stronger, more rewarding relationships. Now, what is the importance of nonverbal communication? Without even reading the article, I'm going to say it's everything. So your nonverbal communication cues the way you look, the way you listen, the way you move, the way you react, tell the person you're communicating with whether or not you care, whether or not you're being truthful, and also how well you're listening. How many times have you talked with somebody and maybe they're just really busy? I mean, you know they're busy, but they say they want to talk to you, but they're busy and they're doing something else while you're talking. They're probably not listening to every single thing you say. So if this is like in a sales position, let's say you want to talk to somebody about doing business with your company, I would just stop the conversation. I have done this before. I would stop the conversation and say, look, you're just really, don't make it look as if they're not being social. I would just say, you're busy and I've caught you at a really, really bad time. Let's set up another time where you're not so busy. Because you're going to sit there wasting time talking with someone who is so busy they're not listening to the words you have to say anyway. So that's just the best way to handle it. And it's been my experience anyway. So let's see what these folks say about it. Now, if you want to become a better communicator, and we all do, it's important to become more sensitive, not only to the body language and nonverbal cues of others, but also your own. Because you could be like really aggravated because of something. Maybe you got the next appointment you got to hurry up and get to. And maybe you're not being a good communicator. So let's find out. Okay, this is going to be good for all of us. Nonverbal communications can play 5 roles. Now, what are those 5 roles? Repetition. It repeats and often strengthens the message you're making verbally. Okay, contradiction. Okay, it can contradict the message you're trying to convey, thus indicating to your listener that you may not be telling the whole truth. And it could be just something you got to tweak. Maybe it's just something in your mannerisms that you really haven't paid much attention to. Sometimes that's all there is to it. Substitution. It can substitute for a verbal message. For example, your facial expression often conveys a far more vivid message than words ever can. Oh, they say us women are like that for sure. Complimenting. Okay, it may add to or complement your verbal message. As a boss, if you pat an employee on the back in addition to giving praise, it can increase the impact of your message. Absolutely. Okay, accenting. It may accent or underline a verbal message, like pounding the table, for example, can undermine the importance of your message. How many preachers do that? And I've had bosses do that too. Like they're sitting at the table and it's just like, man, he woke up in a bad mood this morning. It's just like a simple message he's trying to do and he's just pounding, or he's doing this with his pencil or something like that. All right, now let's talk about types of nonverbal communication. Now these many different types of nonverbal communication or body language include facial expressions. The human face is extremely expressive, able to convey countless emotions without saying a word. Yeah, we women are good at that. And unlike some forms of nonverbal communications, facial expressions are universal. So the facial expression for happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, and disgust are same across cultures. So, okay, so we went on a trip to Bolivia. And this was a missionary trip. And I got to go because I cook. So the guy said, yeah, she cooked some biscuits. Let's let her go. Okay, so even though they spoke Spanish, it was a different dialect of Spanish. So even people who speak Spanish, even people who speak Southern English, Northern English, whatever you want to call it, there can be miscommunications there as well. So all we could do before the missionary's wife got there, all we could do is just sit there and smile at each other and go, uh-huh, yeah. So what we did, they would point at themselves and they were telling me what their names were. So I pointed at myself and I said, Donna. Well, they were giggling. Every single time I said that, they would giggle. So the missionaries, and they would go, Donna, and then just start laughing. So the missionary's wife came back and I said, I got to ask a question. I said, we're trying to communicate with each other and we can smile. There's certain things we can do to communicate. And that's a universal language right there, by the way. I said, but every single time they start calling their names, I point at myself and say, Donna. And they start giggling and they're just laughing. And I said, so what's the deal there? Why are they laughing? And so she laughed. She said, in their dialect of Spanish, you're calling yourself a donut. So, of course, for the rest of the trip, all the guys were saying donut. So, so that's the way that goes. And don't ever let a bunch of guys get at you. That's what they're going to do. All right. Now, let's talk about types of nonverbal communications. We talked about the facial expressions. Now, let's talk about body movement and posture. So, consider how your perceptions of people are affected by the way they sit, walk, stand, or the way they hold their head. The way you move and carry yourself communicates a wealth of information to the world. Now, this type of nonverbal communication includes your posture, bearing, stance, and the subtle movements you make. Now, gestures are woven into the fabric of our daily lives. You may wave, you may point, beckon, or use your hands when arguing or speaking, kind of like in an animated type form, often expressing yourself with gestures without even thinking. We all do that. However, the meaning of some gestures may be very different across cultures. While the OK sign made with the hand, for example, usually conveys a positive message, A-OK, in English-speaking countries, is considered offensive in countries such as Germany, Russia, and Brazil. So it's important to be careful of how you use gestures just to avoid misinterpretation. Now, another thing, you always heard your granddaddies always say, constant eye contact. You look at people in the eyeballs when you're talking to them, because if you don't, they're going to think you're not being truthful with them. So this is what the author says about this. Since the visual sense is dominant for most people, eye contact is an especially important type of nonverbal communications. Now, the way you look at someone can communicate many things, including interest, affection, hostility, or attraction. Ooh. So eye contact is also important in maintaining the flow of conversation, for gauging the other person's interest and response. Okay, so let's talk about touch. So we communicate a great deal through touch. Think about it. Different messages give away by like a weak little handshake, a warm bear hug, a patronizing pat on the head, or a controlling grip on the arm, for example. Ooh. So think about that one. Now let's talk about space. If you ever felt uncomfortable during a conversation because maybe the other person was standing just a little bit too close and invading your space, like especially at the grocery store when I'm paying for something and I'm paying using my credit card or my debit card, I don't want somebody standing right over because I'm afraid they're looking at my credit card, they're getting the number, especially somebody I don't know. So there you go. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we all have the need for physical space, although that need differs depending on the culture, the situation, and the closeness of the relationship. You can use physical space to communicate many different nonverbal messages, including signs of intimacy and affection, aggression, or dominance. Space, I still do the 6 foot of distance during the COVID years, and sometimes we still do that. I've noticed that we were so conditioned to do that when we'd go shopping. I still find myself doing 6 feet. I don't know what my deal is. Okay, now, voice. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. So when you speak, other people read your voice in addition to listening to your words. Things they pay attention to include your timing and your pace, how loud you speak, your tone and your inflection, and sounds that convey understanding such as ah, So those two very different things right there. So think about how your tone of voice can indicate sarcasm, anger, affection, or confidence. Let's cut into a commercial break. We're going to be right back in just a few minutes. And I mean it. I like it. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks.
On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you.
The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors, and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
My Towels solved the problem that we've all had with towels. You go into the stores and they feel lotiony and soft, but then you get them home and they wouldn't dry you. That's why I made My Towels. They actually work, they're soft, and they absorb. And now I'm excited to announce 2 brand new lines of My Towels. What makes them the best towels ever is they're now made with 100% long staple Shapir cotton. This is a combed ring-spun cotton that makes My Towels even softer and more absorbent than ever. And now you get a 6-piece set for an amazing introductory sale price as low as $29.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for only $29.98. Or you can get my designer premium line for just $20 more. Either way, you save 50% now on all My Towels. They actually work. What a concept. This offer won't last long, so please order now.
MyPillow.com.
At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Okay, we're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. By the way, any ideas for shows, or you just want me to do a little research for you, I'd love to do that. Send a message to donna@donnasedge.com. I'll be glad to do that for you. We're talking about communication, nonverbal communication, how nonverbal communications can go wrong. So can they be faked? I think so. There are many books and websites that offer advice on how to use body language to your advantage. For example, they may instruct you on how to sit a certain way, steeple your fingers, or shake hands in order to appear confident or assert dominance, but the truth is that such tricks aren't likely to work unless you feel truly confident and in charge. That's because you can't control all the signals you're constantly sending about what you're really thinking and feeling, and the harder you try, the more unnatural your signals are likely to come across. However, that doesn't mean that you have no control over your nonverbal cues. For example, if you disagree with or dislike what someone's saying, you could use negative body language to rebuff the person's message, such as crossing your arms, avoiding eye contact, or tapping your feet. Ooh, that's a big one. You don't have to agree or even like what's being said, but to communicate effectively and not put the other person on the defensive, you can make a conscious effort to avoid sending negative signals by maintaining an open stance and truly attempting to understand what they're saying and why. Wouldn't it be nice if politicians did that? Okay, now how nonverbal communications can go wrong. We've all been there, right? So what you communicate through your body language and nonverbal signals affects how others see you, as well if they like and respect you, or whether or not they can trust you. So unfortunately, many people send confusing and negative nonverbal signals without even knowing it. Now, when this happens, both connection and trust in relationships are damaged. Okay, so here's a few highlights. Okay, so let's talk about Jack here for a few minutes. So Jack believes he gets along great with his colleagues at work. But if you were to ask any of them, they would say that Jack is intimidating and very intense. Rather than just look at you, he seems to devour you with his eyes. And if he takes your hand, he lounges to get it and then squeezes so hard it hurts. Jack is a very caring guy who secretly wishes he had more friends. And he doesn't realize this, but his nonverbal awkwardness keeps people at a distance and limits his ability to advance at work. So I know this guy was running for office one time. Sweet guy. I mean, just as sweet as they can be. But people misunderstood him. I mean, totally. So I was interviewing him, and I said, you know something, Mike? You intimidate people. And he said, I didn't intimidate you? And I said, no, because you're very much like my dad. Okay, he was very much like that. So I get it. I know you're not intimidating. But nobody's going to vote for you if they're scared to death of you. And so he said, well, what do I do? And I said, when we go in, we're going to talk something personal. I said, but I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do this. You remember that? You go, thunk, 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 thunk. We will rock you. I said, so when we're going in, that's what you and I are going to do. First of all, it's going to show that you're actually a human being. Okay? That you actually had a life as a teenager. We were about the same age. And I said, this is going to show that you are a human being and you've had another life outside of politics. Former military, just an awesome, awesome guy, just misunderstood. So this is what we're going to say. Let's talk about Arlene. Okay, now Arlene is attractive and has no problem meeting the eligible men, but she has a difficult time maintaining a relationship for longer than a few months. Arlene is actually funny and interesting, but even though she constantly laughs and smiles, she radiates attention. Her shoulders and eyebrows are noticeably raised, her voice is shrill, and her body is stiff. So being around Arlene kind of makes some people feel anxious and uncomfortable. Arlene has a lot going for her, that is undercut by the discomfort she evokes in others. All right, so Jack's stern. Arlene has difficulty in relationships. So let's dig just a little bit farther. Okay, now, Ted thought he had found the perfect match when he met Sharon. But Sharon wasn't so sure. Ted's good-looking, hard-working, and a smooth talker, but seemed to care more about his thoughts than Sharon's. So when Sharon had something to say, Ted was always ready with wild eyes and a rebuttal before she could even finish her thought. This made Sharon feel ignored, and soon she started dating other men. So Ted loses out at work for the same reason. His inability to listen to others makes him unpopular with many of the people he most admires. Now, these smart, well-intended people struggle in their attempt to connect with others. The sad thing is they are unaware of the nonverbal messages they communicate. So with that said, if you want to communicate effectively, avoid misunderstandings, and enjoy solid, trusting relationships both successfully and professionally, it's important to understand how to use and interpret body language and improve your nonverbal communication skills. So let's see if we can go through a couple of these real quick before we have to leave. How to improve nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a rapidly flowing back and forth process that requires your full focus on the moment-to-moment experience. So if you're planning what you're going to say next, checking your phone, or thinking about something else, you're almost certain to miss nonverbal cues and not fully understand what's really being communicated. As well as being fully present, you can improve how to communicate nonverbally by learning to manage stress and developing your emotional awareness. Also, learn to manage stress at the moment. Everybody gets a little nervous, especially when you got to speak to somebody you've never spoken to before. So stress compromises your ability to communicate. When you're stressed out, you're more likely to misread other people, sending confusing or off-putting nonverbal signals, and lapse into unhealthy knee-jerk patterns of behavior. And remember, emotions are contagious. So if you're upset, it's like you're going to make other people upset, this making a bad situation worse. Let me tell you what I like to do. When I'm doing selfies, you're at a meeting or whatever, and people say, will you take a picture of me? And I usually will. So I'll get their phone. So what I'm doing, I want everybody to smile. So what I do is I start smiling. And I found that when I smile, the people I'm taking a picture of smile. So that's another tip for you photographers out there. Now, if you're overwhelmed by stress, take a time out. Take a moment to calm down before you jump back into the conversation. Once you've regained your emotional self, then you'll feel better equipped to deal with the situation in a positive way. So the fastest and surest way to calm yourself and manage stress in the moment is to employ your senses. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you trust, and also through a soothing moment. By viewing a photo of your child or your pet, smelling your favorite scent, listening to a certain piece of music, or squeezing a stress ball, for example, you can quickly relax and refocus. Since everyone responds differently, you may need to experiment to find the sensory experience that works best for you. One more, and we got to go. Develop your emotional awareness. Just got to know what to do. You got to do that. Okay, so in order to send accurate nonverbal cues, you need to be aware of your emotions and how they influence you. You also need to be able to recognize the emotions of others and the true feelings behind the cues they're sending. This is where emotional awareness comes in. My name is Donna. I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday. And I love spending lots of time with you. If you have any suggestions for shows, or you just want me to do some research for you, I love doing that. Send an email to donna@donnasedge.com. Thank you so much for watching.